I move on to the next encounter. Still in Phase C, trying to get to Cherson. And is that a 7 again? Alright, well, 7, as it happens before, they have blown me back again between Belgorod and Varna with my boat. I am back in Phase B. This guy is relentless. This Alfred the Barber. It's a magic event. Let me look at my character here and see if I can check a magical event. I can't pick up a magical event because I already checked it, but maybe I can pick up a crafty deed to sort of mitigate the problems here. I'm going to give myself a roll of a 7 using my skill of Mariner to be able to keep the boat even closer to the shore to hopefully get a modifier going forward. 2 dice. Now, if I say to myself, if you roll 2 dice for a difficult roll, you could pick up a quest pip. Boy, that would be nice to have, but it's only going to last the rest of this phase. And a 12 is more difficult. 7 to get sort of an advantage going forward. I rolled my dice, a 9, and I made my dice roll.
The novel, Genelin-inspired ship configuration allowed us to sail nearly straight into the wind. We could ship oars and let the sails do all the work. Still, my hope of thwarting the Windcaller with the lateen sails was dashed by the first sighting of lightning. The wind died, and still, ever so, the storm moved toward us. Dark magic approached. The highest point on the water, our jib was set ablaze in a thunderous crack. Cut her loose, let her drop in the water was all I could command. There goes half our sail canvas. We rowed nearly onto the beach, risking shipwreck crowding the shore, anything to keep away from the white squall flashes in an otherwise clear sky. Radiant, lashing light, downpour drenched sour blood. Light shone from Lagafell.
And that is a crafty deeds, execution of skills, ingenuity. I'm going to hug the coast here, and I'm going to take the advantage that while I'm in the encounters here, I don't have a quest pip, but I can lessen the severity of any encounter I get. Some would argue that's even better than having the other. Now, a 2 is not in phase. I would need a 4, 5, or 6 in phase B, and it's not going to be previous cards, King, Queen, Knight, Knave, or 10 for a personal event. I'm treating kings as 10s, that Emperor. Okay, and a 2. This is going to be an encounter number 5 in a cup rod. Let me go over to my encounters here, and it's a cup rod, encounter number 5, a massacre that I've come upon. So I made a discovery that maybe the winds have caused a fire that resulted in a lot of people being injured. I'm going to go ahead and look that up, though, and I'm going to go into my encounters here. Crossing Underworlds? No. Cup and rod seas. The massacre would represent the players find hundreds of unburied corpses, lose at least one swaggering technique from the site, ask a player to describe the situation, suggest the bodies are eaten, animated, ritualously carved, slain by other measures. I'm going to say they're horribly burned. The referee should steer the carnage toward a disease fire, and again, it's because of the zephyrs being created and the lightning that's going to be result from moving the atmosphere around.
How can a man hold such power? Maybe the Windcaller was not a mortal man. The lightning caused a wildfire ashore, a village burned. Boris Alfred was not making any friends here along the west coast of the Black Sea. My sailors covered ears to deaden the screams of people burning. Flaming thatched roofs collapsed, burying and silencing the cries. Undoubtedly why peasants hate magic users. My men grew sober, silent. Afoti, too. The metal djinn would not confront flame. All eyes looked to me, some accepting our blame. Others asked, did we bring this misery on the innocent? The deed was clearly that maniac Barber. But if we had just accepted defeat, returned to our patron Ivan, told him of our failure, this woe would not befall these simple farmers. I order us to dock, help as we could. By nightfall we had done enough and were departing. The fires were smoldering. Collectively, the locals might rebuild. Some nodded thanks. That's when the baying signaled the next wave of trouble for the village.
We had a horrible fire here. The party will start off being attacked by carrion-eating animals. Wolves are fine. But after a half-D rounds, the attackers changed into grander or more eminent foes. The only escape from combat will be exercising Q&D reconnaissance. Now, I can take a half D8 normal blows of fighting wolves, and I'll do that. I'm going to go into my fundamentals book. Give me a half D8. Here, I got a single D8, and half of that would be 2 rounds of fighting wolves. How will I fight wolves? A lot of different ways to fight wolves. Should I call them nasty creatures, and I gotta take 2 nasty banes? That would be a lot of punishment. How about 2 irregular methods to attack against the wolves? All right, we'll try that. Some of my players who played with me are screaming, no, don't do irregular. A chariot. Now this would be a chariot within the body of the combat tables. So I'm gonna probably have to pop up here. When you got these huge PDFs, there's a lot of scrolling. I do miss paper books, but the cost would just be horrendous in setting them up. Worrying about, whether it's left reading or right reading if you're going to do it right. Combat, a major tarot in combat, and I have a chariot. Is it a chariot that's inverted? It is an inverted chariot. The inverted chariot tells me that dishearten and disorder the enemy until the deck reshuffles. The enemy defensive modifier is set to 0, but it's inverted. Your crew of servitors is kept to the assigned task. Gain 1 random technique. Note, glorious techniques are not penalties, but I'm going to gain 1 extra longbow technique. Well, that's nice.
The viciousness of the rival strengthened our will. The crew resolved to see this through. The Deshi frenzied, first confronted by fire, and now more so with the appearance of the wolves. The bears hungered for unseasoned, stewless dog, bleeding raw meat to devour.
Do I count that as a flip? No, typically the major tarot do not count as the flip. I have to get 2 full cards on irregular. And back to here, let me at least take that longboat. Now, did I get enough food? Probably not. 1 longboat. Was it a random longboat encounter? I'll make it a random one. And here comes a die roll at D20, black spot 18. And that's going to be a longboat inhuman watchdogs, which I already have. So the inhuman watchdogs are sort of attacking the wolves and they're probably also eating some of the carrion of the burned people. Can't stop dogs from being dogs, especially supernatural ones. And I'm going to go over to my next flip. 2 irregular cards. The first would be a 2. So back over here, a 2 irregular. Delight in some whimsy by cutting candles in half or slicing a symbolic letter in the wall, tree, top, table, mast, deck, an opponent's shirt. Carve my emblem of an E for Eric Onge. Optional success and euphoric. Select magical method next round. Otherwise, try to sober up and continue with irregular but shaken. I don't want irregular shaken. Against enchanted adversaries, it isn't. Difficulty increases by 5. It's a 7 energetic. I am energetic. So 3 dice, I'm rolling for a 7. And then I will be allowed to take 1 magical method next round instead of an irregular. Let me, was that the Bane? Is there Bane? Let me look. Let me make sure. Nope, it was a straight up 2. Did I cheat on that other card? Don't go back in time. I need a 7 on 3 dice. Here comes my dice roll. 14, I made it. So now I'm going to get a free round of magical.
Was there no end of these feral animals?
Cut them down.
The swords and spears were singing as I felt a compulsion to sheath my blade and concentrate. The demi-human in me, or was it my voice, was instructing. There was magic to wield in my finger dance and glare and voice.
Do not stay me,
pleaded Ofoti. I sheathed my sword and attempted to drive the wolves away by sheer presence or by whatever manifestation I might conjure. Magic is strange. Everyone has his own power, though most suppress such as blasphemous. All seems dangerous to invoke. Save your wishes for prayers, stodgy clerics would advise. I stopped heeding that timid talk. My father gave sanctuary to a wounded Zare. I recall how that wizard told me that anyone who believes they know a perfect spell is a liar. Magic is never twice the same. Magic is a corruption of what is and known into what might be or never was. Magic is neither evil or good, but always the unexpected. That mystical being showed me his left leg, transformed into hard wood by forces unknown. Demons, I asked? He shook his head. No, I did this by mistake, but I would see other changes as well on my trial to unlock and understand any perfect method of cause. A younger me was foolish enough to think that precision in magic could be cataloged, like a book of recipes, to follow instructions, to savor familiar cuisine. Nothing about magic is cookbook. My father, Halfdan, commanded me to stay away from the spell warden. His recuperation was tolerated, but he was not often consulted. My father, like most Varangian, trusted in mount and steel.
typically magical, are a little bit harder to do than brash actions in combat. And this is more of a benefit that I got from here, freeing myself from the regular action. So I'm going to give myself a magical cup as a benefit. And I'm even going to go one step further and say, because I got these combination of events that happened, my men were inspired. The longboat with its magical inhuman watchdogs is helping me as well. I'm going to take a straight up magical cup no matter whether it's Bane or not. And I will ignore the fact it's inverted, and I will call that instead a Knight of Pentacles, and I will get a Knight under Cups, magical. Enough black arps for the moment. As they cower, cut them down. Is so typical that I'm not actually doing magic. I continue back to using that magic sword that I have. Regardless, lose one swaggering of your blade or mount. If none, the lowest level person must lose a swaggering of his choice. If there is no swaggering anywhere, the event is catastrophic to the entire party. If it's any consolation, the enemy is no longer enraged, and it's trait bold. I am bold, 3 dice, and let's see, I would dispatch a few more opponents, but it's not going to help me. The lose a swagger regardless is the one that I don't particularly care for.
The wolves were scattering as I yelled. A bellow that betrayed my voice was not as robust as my father's or many brothers'. Even I recognized the timbre rose shrill. Still, I magically compelled the largest alpha to freeze. A hesitation, apprehension, or mistake, uncertain. Instead of ordering the beast tame, as I felt I might do, I drew a foti and finished the strike to kill the pack lord.
That was expedient.
Though I would wonder later if I might not have fed my hunger for mystery, became a bit more mystic and unearthly, even see the divine. Magic seemed at my command if only I would trust and perform. Easy enough in theory, but I was also afraid of having my face torn, mutilated by snap. The foti was a sure way to break that spawn of Fenris's jaws.
Ever at your service.
I made the roll, but I had lost one swaggering, as I'm remembering, from the encounter of seeing the carnage of the death, and I've lost another swaggering regardless because of that result. Now, this one specifically said I have to lose one from I'll lose the paladin blade. It doesn't really match the motif. I'd rather keep the hefty. And I have to lose another swaggering from just getting to the boat itself. And I'm going to take away my camaraderie. And the guys are a little bit more disenchanted by this whole mission.
A cry came from my sword, a pain that only I comprehended. I winced with loss, and warriors came to assist. I pushed them back, not confiding the cause of my pain. I could see apprehension. My crew were superstitious, fearful of what I was becoming. My recitations of spellcraft on the wolves had all spooked. None were to stay my friends, not even Hirth. With newfound and coveted power, I started my spiritual journey alone. Yet, what was going on with my blade? The foti spoke in labored tones.
The collective has eroded.
My sword did not change in weight, but I knew something. A force inside had waned, likely died. I felt guilty. This was my fault. I might have consumed some djinn's power trying to tap and alter the strange.
These things happen. No one's fault.
That evening I dreamed of a gleaming waist-length breastplate. My own armament was looser chain. That same armor was carved on oak maiden statues outside the doors of my father's longhouse. I dismissed the image as less an augury and more the result of lust unsatisfied. We had been at sea for far too long. Maybe tomorrow we reach Cherson.
That was a suffer. I mean, I really suffered there, but I did win the battle. Was it big enough? Sure, it had some things. I already have a battle, but I'm going to take my heroics because I lost 2 swaggering, and I also had fighting magical creatures for the first time. Are they wolves? Well, the magic involved with the Zephyrs and the fire. Probably would work better as a bard's tale. Let me move that up here. Bard's tale. Tell the tale when we were fighting the wolves that were eating the corpses from the burned out village. Oh, that's an ugly bard's tale, but okay. And here comes my King of Pentacles. I'm treating kings as 10s as the next encounter, so I've gone to phase C. Here comes my next encounter. I have the High Priestess, and let's come over here and let's look and see what the High Priestess would be. More later.